So we're going to be talking about negotiating the deal. I think this is one of the most important. I mean, this is pretty important as far as getting your offers accepted, putting yourself in a strong position, advising and guiding your clients, right? Negotiating the deal mainly focuses on buyers, but then obviously with sellers as well, you kind of understand where you can stand your grounds, and all of this stuff, the leverage that you have is also going to be dictated by what type of market that we're in, right? So right now we are in a seller's market. If you guys don't know, the lack of inventory obviously dictates that. With the surplus of buyers, the interest rate's going to also dictate that as well, because we are historically still at the lowest interest rate. I've got clients still committing a 30-year at 2.625, which is remarkable, and it's almost like free money. At least that's how these people perceive it. So you guys have all of the materials, right? We're going to go through the materials quickly. Please pause and let me know if you've got any questions in between. I'm always open for Q&As, especially when we're addressing that topic at that moment. Okay, so Carly, we're going to start with the first page, right? So we'll focus on today. So today, these are the skills that we're going to focus on: lead gen for buyers and sellers, making seller listing presentation, getting listings. Oh, so we're going to be doing number 3, running the business, negotiate contracts. The negotiations are an integral part of most real estate transactions. Negotiations can be a pivotal point in the transaction. It is important to find common ground and to strive for win-win agreements. Negotiations can be a deal maker or a deal breaker. We all know that. The breakdown of the agenda is breakdown for the common points of negotiation. Examine the 3 Ps to negotiate, analyze, counter tactics, real play, employ the 3 Ps, recap, and create your success list, daily success habits. So the next slide. Let's see here. Negotiation is a bargaining process between 2 or more parties seeking to discover a common ground to reach an agreement to settle a matter or mutual concern or resolve conflict. When we're talking about negotiations, we obviously talk about initially the purchase negotiation, right? But there's also other smaller negotiations coming through the process of the actual transaction. Now, those are also pivotal because that's where people can cancel escrow or fall out of escrow, be canceled on or cancel, because those parts of negotiations aren't successful as well, that you guys, the buyer and seller, do not find a mutual ground. It is our job to give understanding to our buyers when they're asking for negotiating things, as much as we give understanding to our sellers when we're approached with terms requested by buyers. For instance, during a transaction, the purchase negotiation, but there's also the inspection negotiations. There's the appraisal negotiations, right? Those are the times that you're going to be addressed with the opportunity to renegotiate terms, prices, credits, all that stuff. So the 3 common Ps here. Once an offer is made, there are 3 possible outcomes. The offer can be accepted, rejected, or countered. If the offer is rejected or countered, that is where their negotiation skills can shine. So 10 minutes to brainstorm as a group. I think we're gonna just forego on the group brainstorming for now. Okay, let me ask you guys. Okay, so what are the possible negotiations? I kind of went over that, but is there something that I've not stressed on already that you can think of that are possible opportunities for negotiations? Ashley, can you think of anything?
Would it be like closing date?
Okay. So those are things that you kind of put in the RPA, but if you wanted to renegotiate that closing date, yes, you can certainly do that. I found that to be very difficult, especially when people are making their plans, hiring the movers, scheduling these dates. Also, obviously, the next property that they'll be going into, whether it is a rental or going out of state, all that stuff is going to come into factor. Anything else, Renee? Can you think of something that you would renegotiate maybe?
Renegotiate the, like, does that mean like in terms of like, oh, okay, the buyer will take care of the costs of inspections or something? Would that count?
The buyer always takes care of the cost.
The buyer always takes care of inspections. Okay, so that would be negotiating, but it would be kind of like, well, my father, for example, he handles some commercial properties.
Mhm.
And so he was trying to, they go back and forth on the cost of it. Like, okay, let's just say my dad bought it for 2.5, and then now he wants to sell it for 3, and then, but then, well, I'm getting confused in it. Basically, negotiating just up and you go back and forth, like to try to find a medium where you both can sit with, right?
Right. So now, once you've solidified the contract, once you solidified the negotiations for how much purchase price, the terms of the purchase, and you've negotiated the closing date, is there anything else that you would find yourself renegotiating during the process other than the inspections and the appraisal? So this is not, it doesn't happen often, but I have encountered it personally myself in numerous situations, is furniture. We never really think about it, but sometimes the buyer won't really see something initially, and then they'll go back during the inspection. So they'll go back during like the final walkthrough, and then they'll see this beautiful dining set that they didn't recognize in the beginning, and they'll say, well, we want that in with the purchase agreement. So I've had those encounters where people have negotiated, especially people that are moving out of state, relocating to a far distance. Those are kind of opportunities to negotiate those things. And the reason why is because sometimes it costs more to lug that over to their new replacement property than it is to just kind of maybe charge a few bucks and release themselves of that piece of furniture.
Well, that's why some properties have like, okay, furniture included or fully furnished.
Right. Very seldomly have I seen an actual purchase of a property come fully furnished, because because most of the properties that are fully furnished are staging furniture, right? I am in a transaction right now. We're actually waiting for the counter, and the sellers are moving to Texas. And so in part of their give me one second here, Angelia, my phone's ringing. In part of the MLS descriptions, they did say that the furniture in the house is negotiable. So we drafted up the contract stating that we were going to offer 100K above asking price, but we wanted all furniture and wall decorations to be included, minus kids' furniture. So that's kind of where we're at. So that's something that people really don't think about too much, but yes, household furniture, that can be something that you can readdress, maybe negotiate again.
Okay.
The common points of negotiating typically fall into one of two categories, either pricing or terms. When we talk about obviously pricing, you guys know what pricing means, but terms is what we stress on is close of escrow terms, how long your contingencies are going to be, your inspection contingency, your appraisal contingency, your loan contingency. All those terms can be custom catered to the client, the lender that they're with, and obviously to how aggressive you want to present your offer, right? So we're talking about closing costs, closing dates, conveyances, earnest money, option fee, and repairs. So again, I still have buyers make offers to my listings that say, oh, seller, buyer requests the seller cover closing costs. Far and few and rare have I ever seen that. That term is a little bit more used in some of the other states of this country, like in the Midwest, in the South. I know that they do negotiate closing costs, but LA, the Western regions, I've seen that very few and seldom. I do see new development offering closing cost credit. I have an escrow right now that the developer offered $10,000 closing cost credit to non-reoccurring closing costs, meaning non-reoccurring means that it does not happen again. For instance, HOA closing cost is a reoccurring closing cost. Property tax closing cost is a reoccurring closing cost. That stuff, insurance, that stuff is reoccurring. Non-reoccurring would be escrow fees, title fees, lender fees. Those are non-reoccurring closing costs. Okay. So those are the things that sometimes you can negotiate to say, buyer requests seller cover up to a certain amount of non-reoccurring closing costs.
Will we get like more accustomed and comfortable with this negotiating as we go on? Like maybe a good idea would be to kind of shadow an agent, maybe if, I don't know, is that?
1000%. And you want to be able to kind of shadow someone that understands or kind of has some, I guess, experience, a little bit seasoned in negotiating very competitive market like we are in right now for buyers. Mm-hmm. This is one of the most competitive markets that we've ever been in. Not to say also because you're kind of riding in the dark with pricings. Year over year, the average increase of value is about 7%. We have seen 15 to 20% increase in value in the last year to date. Wow. These are remarkable historical numbers of increased value in within a 12-month period, right? So that's why it's like, if you're doing it logistically, you're looking at the comps, you're like, okay, well, this is what's been closed at. This is what the price was last year. You could even look up title and see what purchase price that they've acquired that property for. But all of that is just thrown out the window in this market. It does not dictate or determine anything. I've seen properties going for 150 to 200K above asking when the asking price was market value price, or even a little bit excessive. It just matters on who is most driven and motivated and has their absolute, because the people that are making these drastic offers are not making these offers based on logistics. They're making these offers purely by emotions. We got to get into this house. I don't care what it takes. We're going to get into this house, right? So I just had a conversation right before this class. I had to tell my buyer which we've submitted an offer 100K over asking on day 2 of their launch. And we are not excessively higher than everybody else, but what they're looking for is a full non-contingent offer. That's what they're looking for, meaning that we have no inspection. We've already released appraisal contingency because that's kind of what the market has dictated in order for you to be even considered right now, because appraisals are not catching up to the actual value of the property because closings are happening. So for instance, if a property goes and pops into escrow today at reasonable price at what you would pay for a property, the appraiser cannot use that comp because it is not sold yet. Until it is officially closed escrow, those are the only things that an appraiser considers for comp, a real comp to compare to, okay? So saying that, I have to tell my buyer, who obviously wants to be protected, but I told him basically, in order for him to really get this house, unfortunately, is because he has to go in, no inspection. We've already agreed on no appraisal, but he's got to go no loan contingency. And I had to tell him, you have to take the risk. And are you willing to take the risk of foregoing your deposit if something goes wrong? That's the risk that the buyer has to take on for himself and decide for himself if that's going to be something he's comfortable with. No one's actually, obviously, no one's comfortable with it, but if he's agreeing to that, you have to make sure your clients are fully aware of what can go wrong if they agree to these terms, instead of just highlighting this is what it takes to get there. But you also have to you have to give them the understanding that if you do this, though, you may get the house, but this is what could happen. You may go through inspections. There may be a foundational issue. There may be some massive issues that was undetected or not disclosed at the time. And we don't get the SBQs or the TDS, the seller questionnaire, right? The property questionnaire. We don't get the transfer disclosure until we actually are in escrow. Unless the agent have done pre-inspections, have done termite inspections, have done any of those inspections ahead of time to provide those disclosures. So I'm making an offer on a property that the listing agents has provided the termite inspection, the pre-inspection, have also even given us layout of the gas lines, any of the improvements that they've made. They've provided all of that in the supplemental disclosures so that they will not look at anything that is contingent. They are only going to consider offers that is already submitted, full contingency removal.
Has this experience been kind of it's been obviously maybe a new experience for you because of the kind of the desperateness that you're finding with these clients that are just like, I just want to get in there. I want to get in there. And despite you saying, by the way, all these things are like appraisals are incomplete and, and blah, 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 blah. These clients still are like, all right, cool. Like, I want it.
Far few and rare. Far few and rare.
Like, okay, people want protection.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
And I personally, as a representative, of course, I want to get another deal done, but not at the cost of something bad potentially happening to my client.
Sure.
Right.
Because these are like your long-term contacts, these are relationships.
Yes, but even my first-time buyers, even clients that I just interacted with, in order for me to retain them as long-term clients, I have to do right by them from the very beginning. Okay. Now, I have had clients that have come in fully non-contingent in this market against my professional advice. They have come in non-contingent to obtain that home, but they were fully aware of all the pros and cons, the best and the worst that can happen, fully disclosed by me. And I also like to do it in writing so that it doesn't come back to bite me in the ass, to say that these are the things that can happen if you proceed with the terms of you want to make sure, So yeah. I had a client who bought a home in Anaheim not too long ago, actually, in this crazy market. We bid, this was in the earlier part of the craziness, and he bid $85,000 above the listed price, which was precedent pricing for that neighborhood. But we also came in no inspection contingency, no appraisal contingency, and no loan contingency. And he was financed.
Wow.
So that was the only way that he could get it. But we beat out 24 offers because of that.
Oh my God.
But I'm going to tell you something, even though we came in non-contingent, we still negotiated on inspection. We still ended up renegotiating on appraisal, and we still got a reduction in price. Plus we negotiated some of the furnishings because they were moving to Hawaii. And so he ended up getting a great deal, but that's not a guaranteed foolproof plan.
Yeah. And definitely it sounds like, how long did it start from the first starting the transaction to the closing escrow for that?
We closed escrow in 30 days, but we offered this. And one of the terms we also asked was we gave them a 2-month free lease back.
Okay.
So obviously, I think that's another class that you do, like buyer's class or something like that. I know I did that class I taught that class as well. But one of the things that you do when you are setting up that offer, one of the most important things you have to do is first call that listing agent before you structure it, before you have definite terms, before you have anything. Once you know that the client is interested in submitting an offer, first thing you do is make contact with that listing agent if you've not already done so. And if you've already met with the listing agent, for instance, at a showing or something, one of the key things that you do have to ask, and you should always ask, is, what are the sellers looking for? Are they looking just purely at price, best and final? What terms do they need? And they're most of the time very open to tell you, hey, the clients need to find a replacement property. They need some cushion in that timeline. So that's going to be very favorable in your offer in your negotiations, right?
Mhm.
I'm in contract right now. I have an escrow that we opened 2 weeks ago that we were not the highest price offer. We beat out an all cash offer because we provided 2 months of free lease back. That was a big kicking term for the sellers. That was the most appealing thing. Okay, so you got to find out what leverage you can have, and then you have to explain that to your clients that this is what they're looking for. This is one of the key things. It's going to be appealing to them. If someone offers them a higher price but do not agree to the terms that they are in need of, you may be the better candidate.
Right.
So those are the things that you have to discuss with your clients. Okay. In order for you to be in very competitive negotiations with your offers, you have to be very competitive on your timelines of contingencies. No one in this market is sitting around for a 21-day loan contingency. No one's sitting around for a 17-day inspection appraisal contingency. No one's going to accept those terms. So understand the market that you're in. That's vital. Okay. So I'm not saying this is what you should do. What I'm saying is, and when you do make those appraisal and loan contingencies, if you shorten those timeframes, make sure you're working with the client's lender to know what is the maximum that you can leverage. So I always say, how much time? What is the most time that you actually need? And what is the timeline that I can get away with? So for instance, I've done a, what's the shortest one that I did? I think I did a 5-day loan contingency, 5 days. And we were able to accomplish a 5-day loan approval. I've also done a 15-day escrow with the loan because the loan lender is a long-term lender that I work with for the last, I've worked for many years, and she's my preferred go-to retail lender. So she knows, and I know that if she says something that she says, this is what I can do for you for this client, because they've already assessed this client, then I can put those timelines in. I'm working with an outside lender that I've never worked with, but it's my client's lender. I've already reported with him. I've told him this is the competition of the market. This is the terms that I need to come in at. Can we provide this for the client? And then he told me, yes, we can do a 10-day loan contingency and we can do a 20-day close. So those are the things when you come to writing your terms out for making your offer as competitive as possible. You have to have rapport with the lender to understand your key terms.
Does the Keller Williams, but they're all one in-house, right? But not with the lenders. It's more of the process transactions and.
So as agents, we are all under the blanket of the Keller Williams franchise. And then from there, we're under the Ford Wilshire branches by Paul Morris and his crew. We've got about 16 offices under the Ford Wilshire blanket, right? All along the coastal of the Western region. But the lenders, so we have an in-house lender, mortgage movement, right? They are an in-house lender that has a that is tied to Largemont or tied to the Ford Wilshire branch. Now, when we talk about retail banks, we're talking about Bank of America, Citibank, Chase, all of the brand names. Those are retail banks, okay?
Yeah.
Remember these terms, retail banks. Those are outside bankers, right?
Yeah.
And then we've got non-in-house, but outside lending brokers that people can work with. Everyone knows Quicken Loans, right?
Yeah.
They are an outside lending broker.
Okay.
Okay, so things like that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. So we're going to go over the 3 P's to approach to negotiation, which is prepare, present, and position, right? Prepare is is key to building confidence, ensuring a smooth negotiation process. Present is move into negotiation process by presenting your offer, and position is move both parties close until you have a full agreement. Now, it's important to have strong competitive RPA, your standard, purchase agreement, right? But there's other elements of negotiations and presentations that are not stressed on, but I think it's very key an element. And I know personally firsthand that I've gotten my offers accepted based on my presentation of my offers. So I attach everything. I have a brief intro. Unfortunately, I won't be able to show it to you because there's some things I have to keep to my own, right? But I'm going to give you kind of a gist of a layout of what I do. And then you take that and then you make it your own, okay? But what I do is I do a brief intro. I say, thank you, so-and-so, whoever the listing agent, and I say, thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity to view your home, accommodating our showings. And then I go on to saying that my client is pleased with the property, or my client is in love with the property, and we are proceeding with presenting our offer. Here are the, here attach all the following. And then I put, the RPA, sometime, pre-approval, POFs. Sometimes I do a letter to seller, depending on the feel of how necessary it is. Now, when I feel like there's emotions involved in making those decisions, yeah, I pull out all the stops and I do the letter to seller. Not everyone agrees with this letter to seller. Some listing agents will right off the bat tell you they won't present those letters of sellers. But I've had listings where people have sent me videos. They have sent me, use their kids in the videos for that letter of seller, to kind of do the tear jerking, get a little bit of emotional attachments to the buyers. I have personally had buyers that have done, they've done full slideshows, okay, to present their offers. I mean, it's gone full-blown web designer grade level. Okay, so it just really depends on how much you want to invest in it. I sometimes have clients just give me a little bit of a brief background, a small little bio of who the buyers are, and then the leverage is put into key points of that home that you loved, like certain things that that the sellers invested a lot of time and emotions into. Those are the things that are going to be a little bit of a leverage as well. And then I put in this is the thing that listing agents love. They're going to obviously look over your offers, but the thing that they really appreciate is the organization of how you presented that cover page, right? Your email, because that's what's the first thing that's going to be your impression. And so what I do is I put the terms of the offer is as follows, and then I put bullet points. I put purchase price, right? Then I put EMD is 3% of, and I give them the X amount. Then I give them how much down payment and what the percentage of their down payment is, and the amount of their loan. I put that in that bullet point as well. I go on to saying that, close of escrow periods, right? So we're going to do X amount of days of close of escrow, contingencies, X amount of days of contingencies for inspections. Am I putting in an appraisal contingency, X amount of days if I am, and then X amount of days for loan contingencies. I put all of that in my cover letter on that email. And then I go on to putting in my first email of that offer. It is extensive, it's long, it's detailed, it's easy to refer to. And at least right off the bat, the listing agent's gonna know. I don't have the best impression when someone shoots me an email as a listing agent myself. If someone shoots me an offer and they say, they just say, here's my client's offer. That's it. And then they just throw in all the attachments. It just already sets the tone for me that this guy is not diligent. I'm probably going to do a lot of work with this agent because they fail to do the extra mile. So all of that stuff also is part of your negotiation is how you present as an agent, because it's great that agents and client sellers are looking for best and highest offers. Fantastic. But agents have a lot of influence. They don't have all the influence, but they do have a lot of influence. So how you set the tone in presenting yourself as an agent that you're going to be working with for the next 30 days at an average, you have to set that tone as well. So that's also part of negotiations, setting that tone of expectations, what type of expectations they can have for you, right?
Right.
So that's it's just more leverage. It just continues on to be more leverage.
Did that agent, I'm just curious, were they very experienced and that was just their method of presenting in that fashion? The one that you said that kind of gave you a bad taste, like a bad first impression, like, oh, wow, you just like you felt like, oh, you didn't really put much into it.
It was a seasoned agent, unfortunately.
It was a seasoned agent.
It was a seasoned agent. You'd be surprised, actually, the new agents put a whole lot more effort than some of the seasoned agents do. Sometimes seasoned agents that are, okay, so seasoned agents means they've been in the industry for a long time. Does not mean that they're active agents. I had a deal with a seasoned agent who has been in the industry for 45 years, but he does maybe 1 or 2 deals in a year.
Mm-hmm. It just depends. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. And then I've run into new agents that I've looked them up on the records and I see them closing 20 to 25 units per volume per year. And they're new agents. They've been in the industry for maybe only 4 or 5 years. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it really depends. And when I'm a buyer's agent, I do look up the listing agent to kind of see, I cyber stalk them a little bit. I look up their Facebook, I look up the LinkedIn page, I look up and see what is of importance to them. And then I look, if they have a Yelp page, I look up their reviews, I look up their Zillow reviews. I do a little bit of research on the agents to see what I'm getting myself into. Are they someone that's going to be able to communicate well? Are they receptive to communications? I had an agent who would never take a call, ever. He just would text or email. Never would take a call. Never, ever, ever, ever would take a call. I did do something that forced him to call me one time. It was the first time I've talked to him, and he's like a 45-year veteran. Okay.
Yeah.
I've been in the industry. I'm a seasoned active agent, and I take every call.
Yeah, I can tell. You're the kind of, when you see someone, you're like, those are the kind of practices I'd like to get to become, or it's second language for me, like it is for you. And I guess that just comes with experience and time and effort. And I guess a good mentor, I don't know, Yeah, I'm very new, so yeah.
I will say I had the very fortunate and the unfortunate to be a buyer's agent. I was a buyer specialist when I first started back in the industry. I joined the team and I was their buyer specialist. So I had, obviously battle wounds, cuts and bruises from the rejections, the negative approaches. I've learned all of that and how it made me feel as a buyer's agent. And when I became a listing agent, I took that to heart. From the experience I had as a buyer's agent, I understood that. That's why I tried to be empathetic to the opposing side. And of course, the big wisdom of this all is that you never know who you're going to run into again in this industry if you're going to stay here for a long time. Your reputation and your relationship with your colleagues is just as important as your relationship with your clients, if not more.
I agree.
So it was a funny story. As I had an agent I was talking to, she was amazing. We had amazing rapport, and she was telling me the story about how she was repping a buyer, and the listing agent was a total a-hole. When they closed escrow, he was nothing but a nuisance. He was a pain in the ass in every which way. And then ironically, the listing that her and I were talking about, he had submitted an offer for that. So she told me she's not even going to look at it. It's not ethical, but that's setting the tone. We're all humans. We want to be as ethical as possible, but you know what? If we have a bad taste in our mouth about someone, we are not going to go out of our ways to help them in any sort of way, right?
Right.
So your relationship with your colleagues of this industry, whoever they meet, be a new agent or a seasoned agent, you want to treat them with respect and making sure that you have a type of relationship that if you run into them in for a deal or for personal matters of any sort, that you will have set a good impression. I'm not saying you have to kiss ass. I'm just saying keep your professionalism and make sure that you set the tone where you're a person that fulfills their commitment. You do what you say. That's really important. If you say, hey, I'm going to get this to you shortly, get it to them shortly. You know?
Yeah.
So let's see here. We're on page 10 of the teacher's guide. So it says participants page, turn to page 8 in your participant guide, right? It's knowing your goal. Prepare, learn. The preparation step agents can take to build confidence to ensure a smooth negotiation process is know your goal. It's like understanding what your goal is. If your client says, I love this house, but I'm only going to love it at this price, know that they are still price driven. They're not going to be making unreasonable decisions based on emotions. Knowing your client, again, understanding what their goals are. Are they emotionally driven? Are they price driven? Are they timeline driven? I had a client who we sold his house. We got a 2-month lease back and we still couldn't find a replacement property. And when the time came for them to make a decision, what do you think was their biggest goal? Timeline. They were timeline driven. So we needed to find a property that they could purchase, that they could move right into at the close of escrow, that was going to be ready. That we wanted to make sure that the sellers were not in a position where they would ever request an extension of timeline. Okay, so know what your client's goals are, what their priorities are as far as their the offer process of it. Now, that goes both ways for sellers. If you have to understand, is your sellers looking for the best price, or are they looking for timeline, or are they looking for terms? No, understand what their main top priority is. Think ahead, anticipate what the other party wants out of the negotiation. Write down how you think they may counter the offer and how you plan to handle it. Obviously, in a perfect world, we can try to plan everything ahead, hope for the best, plan for the worst, right? I mean, I think that's what the motto goes for. But again, we can only do so much. But I think that agents that learn to pivot quickly are the ones that are going to success on the long run. For instance, you can be blindsided by, okay, I have an escrow right now that we went in. I told you guys we want the highest offer. We went in through inspections, and there were these things that came up on inspections. And we asked for credit and some repairs. They came back with no and no. Now, obviously the buyers are going to have a bad taste about it. I had to try to strategize what is going to make and save this deal and provide at least a good taste in their mouth for my clients who are the buyers, right? So my clients never asked for anything. They were a referral. It's not someone that I had obviously procured on my own. And so they weren't asking for anything unreasonable. They were asking for a couple $1,000s of credit just to kind of solidify things, just smooth out and just have a good tone for the rest of the transaction. And the sellers refused to address or even, they refused to accept any of those requests. And so for me, in order for me to pivot really quickly and to strategize to how to save this deal and to make sure that my buyers will proceed forward, but also proceed with a good, I guess, disposition about the transaction. And I was willing to offer them $1,000 credit towards their closing cost. Now, I'm not saying that you should go out and give out your commissions or on all that stuff, but I also know that I'm going to be giving them a closing gift. I know that I would be providing some certain closing amenities that I do at the closing. So when we close escrow for a buyer, I go there, I bring them, I set up a case of water. I bring a 3-roll paper towel. I bring a big packet of toilet paper. I bring the 3 rolls of the Lysol wipes. And, you know, these minor household items that people don't really think about right initially off the bat. I have that little setup for them so that when they walk into the house, the first thing they at least have water, they have TP. If you have those 2 things, you can kind of go over, you know, get over most of the things, but those are 2 things you can't supplement, right? So I do that for my clients. So I put into that as part of my cost of expenses for my clients, for my buyers. And so instead of getting them like some nice closing gift, I'm probably going to forego that. I'll probably give them still the setup kit, but I'm not going to give them a closing gift. So that's how I strategize. Like, where am I going to, I allotted a certain amount of expenses, and I will use those expenses for my clients. So every closing transaction you have, you don't take home 100%. You know, you plug some of that money back into your marketing. So when you do that closing gift, when you do that setup for the buyers, those are marketing expenses, because what you're doing is you're procuring their loyalty to you, and also referrals. I got a call like late last night from a client who I sold him his property. I helped him buy his replacement property. And I always give them friendly reminders as, hey, if you have any friends or family that need real estate assistance in any sort of way, I do appreciate your referral and all of that stuff. He called me yesterday and said, hey, guess what? I go, what? He goes, I'm finally going to take you up on that. I have a referral. It's a best buddy of mine who's coming into town. He's moving in from Texas. He needs a place to live. He needs to find a property. He's an all cash client. It's fantastic. So I spoke with the client. We are already in communications. I know what his search criteria is. And then I'm going to be working with him until we get to that step. You know, he needs to find something within the next 3 months timeline, you know, so all of that. So those are expenses that I set aside per transaction based on the price of the transaction, is also the amount of the marketing expense that I've allowed it, the allowance that I give myself too, you know. One of my transactions, closing gift, my clients, I spent $10,000 on their closing gift. Okay. So obviously it was because the commission from that client was about 100K. So I kind of understand, and also how often are they buying? So some of these buyers that I have, some of my clients are investors. So they buy inventory, 2-3 inventories per year. They'll go through like 3 or 4 transactions with me, you know? So, and then if I've got a owner occupy, a regular buyer, then I know that they're not going to be a client of mine, at least for the next 3 to 5 years. Again, you know, they say people come back around in 5 years. Just know that these are investments that you have to make with them.
That's why they say, in first 1-2 years, just try to get, understand. And I'm reading that book right now, the $1 Million, the Gary Keller book.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And I guess it's like, it all sounds great. And when I'm hearing you, it sounds as though it can be a great thing, but I guess it's just the matter of, like, you know, it's like that stage fright. The first time you get a client, it's kind of the way you finagle into a conversation, and negotiations make me a little nervous to think of doing. So, but I do find a lot of value in what you're saying. And I think it is doable. It just takes a certain amount of confidence to be able to present something to.
I'm going to tell you a secret, Renee.
Okay, thanks.
It never goes away, and it shouldn't. And the reason why I say that is because when you start becoming numb to what you're doing, that excitement is gone. And I still to this day get nervous before I talk to a new client that I've been referred to or procured in any sort of way. I'm always on a little tippy toes when I have to go for a new listing presentation. I am not numb to what I do. I still get butterflies and nervousness every single time.
Oh,
It doesn't consume me. And I know that I can do it, but I also do get very nervous. And I also have this, like everyone else, we have, I don't like to be rejected, right? But it doesn't matter who you are, what you come from. There's always that, even if it's on 1% chance, there's always that percent chance of having rejection.
right.
You have to get over it,
Okay.
That nervousness, Renee, is going to keep you on your toes. And that's what you want.
Yeah, that's true. That people pleasing side of me, I
But
don't want
that's
to let people
makes you-
down.
But that personality trait keeps us doing really well. I was actually mentioning that. It's ironic. I said that yesterday to a couple of my friends, and I said, my people pleasing side helps my business be successful, but it's a double-edged sword. It's also the one that kills me every single time.
Yeah.
Because I do go above and beyond without needing to go to that extent, but I do. But because I do, I also retain the loyalty of my clients, and then also my clients referring me clients because they know that I go above and beyond for my clients.
Right. Thank you.
But then it's exhausting.
I bet. Yeah.
I mean, I won't fake the funk on that one. Okay. It's, sometimes it's blood tears coming down. Like, what am I doing? Should I be in this industry? Everyone has those breaking moments.
Yeah.
And it comes to the best of us. I promise you. Okay. The next one is setting clear expectations. This is really important because we are paid by our clients to represent them in the best manner that we can. That means also making sure that your clients are fully aware of what could happen if the decisions that they choose, on the road that they choose, right? So I had a listing where we had obviously multiple offers, but it was neck and neck between two offers. And I told my clients this. I said, one offer, they're both neck and neck. Monetarily wise, there's just a few bucks, but this is what you can expect from this agent and these buyers. And this is what you can expect from these buyers and these agents. You tell me what you want to do. And these are the expectations. When it came down to my clients chose the higher offer against my professional advice, and it was hell. It was hell through the process. And I told them, this is why I asked you to choose. This is why I would have preferred to have worked with this agent, because I know that she's on top of her game. She knows what we're doing. They chose the higher offer with a seasoned agent that didn't know how to do an avid properly. And we had to resend it to her to point out to her where she needed as an agent to sign. She's been in the industry for 25 years. And for me to have to point out to her where the avid signature needs to be 3 different times, that's absurd and ridiculous. So just letting you know, just making sure, so right now we're in negotiations with my client that's buzzing my phone right now, is the fact that they're looking for a non-contingent offer. He's like, well, let's just go non-contingent. I'm telling him, the risk you're taking with the non-contingent is this. If we go through inspections and there's a major red flag, you don't have protection to cancel on that. Now, if something happens and all of a sudden some radical thing in your financing happens and your loan does not get approved, you are risking your deposit. Knowing that, and you want to go full non-contingent, that's fine, but making you fully aware of what,
that entails.
Yeah. So the next one is be informed. before making an offer or counter offer, it's good practice to speak with each other as agents, ask open-ended questions, use active listings to find out as much as you can about the party and their agent. This helps you know with whom you're negotiating and what points you will negotiate and where you and your clients have leverage. Again, it comes back to rapport with that agent. It is absolutely vital. I couldn't stress to you enough how important it is that you have that first rapport that you do with that opposing agent, be it the listing agent or the buyer's agent. That rapport that you have with those agents, it's going to set the tone. They're going to judge your offer and your clients based on who the agent is. Unfortunately, so like you can have the shittiest clients, but if you're a great agent, you know, you'll be well received. But if you have, you know, the best clients, but a shitty agent, you know, that's the impression they're going to get. Shitty agent equals shitty client. That's the misconception that people will have. So making sure that you rapport well with that agent. And before it is in the offering phase of it, there's, you know, seeking out the information, you know, making sure that you understand. There's nothing wrong with being inquisitive. Asking them, again, what the seller's highest motivation is. If they say, oh, best offer, then you know it, they're price driven, right? Now, let's say you've gotten the offer, and let's say you are going to, you've gotten the offer, and you're going to write out a counter offer. And you say you have multiple offers. Let's look at it from the seller's perspective first. Then you're going to be sending out counter offers. Before I send out counter offers, I personally make a call to these agents. I call them up and I say, where are your clients at with this? You know, how invested are this? These are the things that we're thinking of countering on. How do you think your clients will receive on this? Are these things that they can work with? Because I don't want to send out a counter and then scare off the buyers. So I also have to be, and there are conversations that I, as an agent, have with the opposing agent that the clients will never know about. These are the behind the scenes, you know, protocol procedures that the other agents, that the clients don't know. I am in escrow right now. You know, obviously I kind of did some things where I influenced the agent to say that, you know, don't you want to work with someone like me and this and that and whatever and all that. And I was able to push it along through. She's not going to tell her clients, this is the reason why I picked her. You know, what she's going to do is she's going to tell the clients, this is their strong offer. I think that this is competitive. I think that they know what they're doing. I think these buyers are much more motivated than the other set of buyers. She did everything but tell them what we had a conversation about as agents. When she came back and said that the clients were not going to accept any request for credits or repairs, before I even sent that request in, my clients wanted to request like $5,000 credit. Before I sent it in, I called the agent and I said, hey, this is what this is what we're structuring. How do you think the clients are going to feel about this? She's going to say, yeah, they're going to throw it out and they're going to send you a cancellation. We have a backup already in position. They have no qualms about doing that. So it was lucky for me that the agent was very transparent about it. And so what I did was I went back to the clients and I said, look, I am definitely here to support you and to messenger of what your demands or what your requests are. But I'm going to give you full disclosure that this is the reception that we're going to get when we send this up. We're going to risk the chance that they're going to cancel on you. And these are the things that can happen. And at the end of the day, they decided that it wasn't worth $5,000 to ruffle the feathers of this transaction because they did not want to be canceled on knowing full well that there's a backup buyer who's very aggressive and is calling on a daily basis to find out if there's any transaction failure in any sort of way that they can swoop in and come in. And I do the same. If I'm in backup position, I am calling every single day or at least every other day and finding out, hey, how's the transaction go? How's the negotiation go? How did the inspection go? If if things don't work out and they want to renegotiate, just come to me. We'll come in. This is what we'll do. I'm there. So, you have to assume that someone else is there as well if you're in that negotiation position.
Christina?
Yes.
Question. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be, has there been an instruction on reading contracts, or is that in person? Like I, and just understanding going down the contract, because there was a different class where it was like, really know the contract inside and out. So you know how to explain that. Okay. That's like the know the documents inside out. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So, what's so funny is that you guys are going to be, as new agents, on a even playing field with some of these seasoned agents. And the reason why is because the RPA is changing. You guys know that, right?
Now I do.
The sample of that RPA is in our office at the front desk with the guide. I highly recommend you guys all grab a copy and learn the new contract, because by the time you guys are actually writing the new contract, you guys will not be writing the old RPA. You guys are going to be writing the new RPA. And all of the seasoned agents, just like me, we have to learn the new procedure. So you guys are on an even playing field.
Oh, thank you for that. That's important. I'll get that. Okay.
Okay. There's a guide too. It's, so just to learn it. And then I'm sure they're going to start ending up doing tutorials and classes on the new RPA. And you know what? You're going to be sitting there in a class with a bunch of seasoned agents too. It's not going to be just new agents that are going to have to learn this. I know we can go line by line on this. We have a very short limited time. Back when I used to do Ignite in person, this was a 3-hour class, guys, that they've condensed it down to 1 hour. The material hasn't changed, just letting you know that. The timeline has changed. So it's a lot of material to cover, but I think that you guys want to understand the best things about negotiations, and the things that the tips that I can give you as an agent myself, I'm going to tell you is that when you're negotiating in this particular market, if you're going to be representing buyers anytime in the immediate future, you guys have to understand, obviously price is has to be very competitive. Knowing that if someone says, hey, I want to go under market, under the listing price, that's probably not going to fly unless it's been obscenely overpriced, But if you're looking at a property that's competitive, you're going to have to think about price is going to be important, obviously, because everyone, money talks, bullshit walks, right? But also the terms, can you shorten your length of contingencies? Can you shorten the length of your inspection contingency? Usually as soon as you call, like have inspectors 1, 2, and 3. Have your backups, right? If company 1 can't do it, find if company 2 can do it. If company 2 can't do it, find your company 3 that can do it. But make sure that all 3 companies are companies that you're comfortable with. But you're going to have like 1 that I prefer to work with, 2, I can still work with them and they're still great. And 3, of course, they're reliable as well, So have that in your back pocket, because the minute you get a clearance, the minute you get an acceptance, before it even gets to escrow for a client introduction, first thing you should be doing is calling and saying, I need to schedule an inspection tentatively for this day, because and if you explain to the inspectors, this is our timeline, we got to get in there and we got to get the report done, and we got to make sure that we have ample time to request for repairs if needed, so on and so forth. They do work with you. So kind of knowing that. So negotiating on the timelines, negotiating again on sellers' needed terms, like for instance, the lease back, if they need cushion for a replacement property, yeah, I mean, that's kind of, I guess, like the big gist of it. Just making sure that your negotiations are to make your negotiations very competitive. Now, I don't know if you guys have, have joined in the conversations with the certain offers that people are putting in so that there is like that you're 5,000 above, or that whatever the highest offer they have is that you're going to actually bump it up to $5,000 or $10,000 above, up to a certain amount, you know?
Mhm.
So those are also like terms that you can implement into your offer. If you guys are writing an offer and you guys are in Rob's mentoring program, fantastic, because you guys have a mentor that you can bounce ideas off. But there's a ton of fantastic seasoned agents here that you can certainly request to bounce some ideas off. It's not going to cost you to be a part of that transaction. One thing I love about this office is that the seasoned agents they have open door policies where they're welcoming new agents and allowing them to pick their brain. When I was a new agent, I used to bribe the seasoned agents. Sometimes I'd take them out for coffee, I'd take them out for lunch, and I'd say, I'd love to buy you a cup of coffee, or I'd love to take you out for lunch. In exchange, if I can pick your brain for 30 minutes, or if I can pick your brain for about an hour, you know? I mean, I still do that to this day. If there's some sort of information that I want to pick, because that's not my forte, and maybe it's not something that I've personally have experienced, but I want a little bit more insight on it, then I do. I offer, a lunch date, or I offer a dinner date or something, just so that I have an opportunity to exclusively pick their brain.
Hmm.
I have my buyer's agents. I decided that I was going to take them out to dinner for the first, from them joining my my team, and they exploited the opportunity, picked my brain for an hour and a half, where I almost got a headache. So maximize the opportunities that you get. Okay.
Okay.
When does this class end? 12:30?
In 10 minutes, you could.
Oh, 12:45? Is that what it is? Okay. So let me see if there's anything else that I really need to touch on that I feel like it's really important. I see there's a lot more participants here than Renee that are not speaking.
Sorry, I'm trying to pick
Oh,
your
no,
brain.
Renee, I love your engagement. I think it's fantastic. And I'm sure you're stressing on things that other people may want to know the answers to that don't have,
Maybe it's that Korean connection. I don't know.
it's the Kims, huh?
It's the Kims.
Okay, well, you guys have 10 minutes. You guys have 10 minutes to throw me your questions, anything that you want to know that maybe not touched on this, that we're talking about as far as negotiations. If you want to pick my brain, you guys have 10 minutes to pick my brain. Let me know.
I have a question. So let's just say, because I only signed on about a month ago, and I'm still trying to figure out like just this command and putting my names into the database and try to do a smart plan. But I don't even have anybody actually like a client yet. But let's say I have someone says, hey, I have someone, I want to refer them to you. Okay. And then at that moment, I'll probably get really nervous. Okay. But I'll be excited.
Yes.
And then I'm going
Yes.
to go to Keller Williams and be like, I need a partner with someone.
Yes.
Right? To take me through the process, I guess. Because is that very common? I can just like go to Rob and be like, hi, I have an interested client and I need some
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
okay.
you'd be surprised. Like, I have seasoned agents coming to me because I have a certain specific niche that I